Mona, honey, from the moment we met, you have this gorgeous, bright light. And one of the things that really struck me is how incredibly regulated you are, especially for a mom and an entrepreneur and someone that's holding space for so many people and who has an incredible healing journey to boot. I'm
Mhm.
always in of women, particularly women like yourself, who can really hold capacity. And I think a lot of that has to do with resilience and coming through the fire. And I would love if you would take a moment and just share a little bit about your beautiful journey and how you are thriving here in this moment.
My goodness. Well, first, I'm so grateful to connect with you. Gosh, my heart just gets so happy when I connect with women like you, and I see your light too. So thank you. Yeah, it really has to do with my journey and my upbringing. And I think that something that we should all be doing is just acknowledging everything that we've gone through to get us to the here and now. Because for me, my journey really was paved for me. And funny, we talk about this word resilience. And I'm so grateful that people see me with this light and this peace and this calmness and resilience that you speak of. But internally, it did not feel that way for a really, really long time. On the outside, I probably seem really calm, cool, collected, but on the inside, I was just like this ticking time bomb. It's almost like this electricity that was just always tense and tight and buzzing. Even though I knew about this external world of like helping others relax and feel peace and feel calm, ultimately, because growing up, it's almost like that was an expectation for myself in my family. There's a lot of chaos happening in my house growing up. So if I could keep cool and collected, then things seem to go more smoothly. So, before my life in health and wellness, I actually come from the corporate cosmetic world. And in that world, whenever I talk about it, it sounds so glamorous. God, I worked in fashion. I worked for a handful of luxury cosmetic companies. I was able to travel the world, do makeup for a fashion show, and eventually move that into the corporate world, which ended up being a numbers job, typical corporate scenario where I felt burnt out. I was traveling a lot, waking up in hotel rooms where I didn't know where I was. And I started getting a lot of stress and anxiety. And the anxiety was just really overwhelming. And it even led to depression sometimes and just like the feeling of something like something's not right. I also started getting heart palpitations at that time. These heart palpitations just basically felt like my heart was just beating out of my chest after bending down to pick up a pair of socks. And over time, it got worse to the point where I would go for a run. I feel like I would black out. And at that time in my 20s, I wasn't interested in the protocol and healing journey and getting to the root cause. I wanted fast. I wanted the quick fix. I wanted the red pill. Tell me what to do to just make this go away. So I went on beta blocker medication. God bless doctors. All he really wanted to know was, are you smoking too much? Are you drinking too much? No, you can pass this stress test where you run a little bit. Okay, great. Well, let's put you on this med. Went on this medication, and sure enough, it just completely changed who I was. I became completely lethargic and tired. I stopped exercising. I was eating poorer food choices. I just lost, like, I just felt dull on the inside. And with that, I started gaining weight. I actually gained about 45 pounds. And I was like, this isn't working. This has to stop. What's the next solution? He said, well, let's go in and we'll do a surgery. So it's called ablation. An ablation for atrial tachycardia is what I had. I was like, great, let's go in and do it. So my first surgery, I was 23 years old. I go in, you're awake for the whole thing. Your heart is on this massive monitor. They go through your groin and through your neck with these cameras. And then they start injecting you with caffeine and stimulants and adrenaline to induce these palpitations that I knew would only happen if I was moving my body, bending down. And so sure enough, after a couple of hours, they ended up finding a place where they could burn off an electrical node around my heart. It feels like this explosion of fire that goes off. And I thought, great, they got it. That's amazing. But the next morning in the hospital, I woke up with my heart palpitations. Didn't work. At this point, I was going through some hardship. I really started hating my job. I was going through a breakup. My parents were getting a divorce. I was moving, becoming kind of like this emotional caregiver for my mom. Like life was just really intense and stressful. You could say like the vibration of my body was off. My life was out of alignment. I was out of resilient. My body could not heal itself. It got to a point where it was like, I look back, my heart palpitations were like an SOS, like, hey, something's off. Start paying attention. Make some big changes. We need your help. So I went in for the second surgery, still anxious, just like take the problem away. I don't have any energy left to heal. When they finally found a place to do the ablation again, they said, well, we found where we could do it, but chances are there could be a risk that you might have to wear a pacemaker for the rest of your life. And in that moment was like that scenario where your life flashes before your eyes. I imagine this bump under my skin with a pacemaker that I have to wear for the rest of my life. And I was like, what the hell is happening? How did I get here? was a healthy person and generally a happy person. And the craziest part of this is that I knew better. Growing up, my mom is Danish, my dad is Indian, and I've only ever known my mom to have debilitating rheumatoid arthritis. So her hands, feet completely just deformed. And with my father's insight on yoga and Ayurveda, he would take us to live at an ashram every summer. So these spiritual centers where you practice yoga and meditation and eating high vibrational foods and spending time in community and in nature. And for me, I had to do yoga kind of like you probably got to go to a fun summer camp growing up. I had to go to yoga camp.
I
Did
was a
not seem
latchkey
fun.
kid, so we were always in camps because my mom was a
Yeah.
single mom. So I was,
There you
yeah, I lived in camps.
So I was getting tapped at 5:30 in the morning by my dad to come and meditate. And it's
Yeah.
like, oh
Oh
my
my
God.
goodness, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing now
I mean,
looking back,
now
but felt
looking
like
back.
torture. So, anyways, the point of me sharing all this with you is that in that moment, I knew that I had to go back to my roots at the ashram. I knew that there was another way to heal. I knew that I had been really just stuffing down the things that I knew I needed to do because I just wanted a fast solution. Life felt really, really hard and stressful, and I just wanted someone to come and take it away, as opposed to me actually tuning in and getting back into my body and understanding the work that had to be done. And so, with the support of my incredible now husband, I quit the corporate world. I went back to the ashram. I became a yoga teacher, meditation teacher, and eventually a nutritionist, not for professional pursuit, but just for my own healing. When I was at the ashram, I finally shut down the noise in my mind, the struggles, the anxiety, the worry, the tension, the pain, the sadness, the immense sadness that I was feeling. I tuned into my body. I was able to process a lot of that emotion. I ended up losing all the weight. I knew how to manage my heart palpitations. I saw the direct correlation with the foods that I was eating and whether or not I got the palpitations, the stress and sadness that I felt, and whether I got the palpitations. And I've never looked back. And so when I started working with my clients within nutrition, yes, food and diet and supplementation is so important. But if the foundation within the body is not optimized, if you don't have that resiliency within you, nothing will work. It's kind of like just throwing, mud at the wall and just hoping it will stick. Fix the foundation first. Get to the root of the foundation of what you need to feel well, and then consider the wellness protocol. That's what did it for me.
I was just thinking about your story and how much turmoil at that some of that time that you were really having to handle. And if we don't have the tools, even if you went, as a little girl to the ashrams and kind of were learning them, probably didn't realize how to really use them. But then I love that in that moment where you were having to decide if the pacemaker was the deal or that second go along with that second surgery, continue with it, that you had a path, a way of moving through. How long did you get to spend at the ashram when you decided to just kind of reconfigure life?
Yeah, I spent about 2 months there. And look, could I do that today now with kids and career and stuff like that? No, but there's ways for you to just like build the foundation of the ashram in your home. We can all do it. Set the stage to practice mindfulness, making sure that the environment that you're in looks peaceful, making sure that what you're filling your cupboards in your fridge with are things that are going to optimize your vibration and your health. And this is where like we really have to pull back and take more of a holistic view of healing instead of just dialing in. We think that by going hardcore into one thing, one path, one strategy, one diet, one protocol, one supplement, one biohack, that's the thing. It's like, no. That's an addition. That's a modality to help get to the foundation. And something that you said too, and I just want your listeners to understand, for me, there was a lot of trauma and sadness and a lot of it that I had had since I was a little girl. And I love that this is becoming part of the conversation today. But honestly, like I didn't have any major like capital T trauma. I was never sexually abused or physically abused, and kind of just never gave myself permission to feel into it, because how could I complain when on the outside my life looked really good? I'm not starving. I'm not living in poverty. My mom, God bless her, but she experienced hardship. There's alcoholism and abuse, and she had to leave the country that she was in. It's like, that's hardship. How could I complain about what I was going through? But our emotions are our emotions. How we experience trauma is still trauma within our body and to our nervous systems. No matter what you have dealt with in the past, yes, it's that important to deal with in order for you to move beyond it.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to focus or kind of put a highlight in for a moment, because I think a big part of that journey for you was helping to regulate and process those emotions. Even today, what are some of those non-negotiables for you, Mona, for just regulating your system and creating safety within your environment, specifically for your body, but also, I mean, as a mama, it's always a consideration for us and our children.
Yeah, and this is such a key topic, especially today. 1 in 4 adults is diagnosed with a mental illness. Over 40% of the population is experiencing anxiety. These numbers are getting worse with the rise of technology and our disconnection from community as we live on technology and devices. And for me, this idea of safety, it's just like, I almost became addicted to being wired. Like I loved the feeling of caffeine. I loved intensity. I loved hardcore. My body got so accustomed to living at this like really intense rate. We give this a lot of glamour in society, right? It looks really good. The people who out there can do it all and do all these hardcore things.
It's
And
celebrated.
it's celebrated. Yeah. There's no acknowledgement of what it means for somebody to just like, oh, did you tune into your body today? Did you tune into your mindfulness and who you are and how you want to feel in this world and your happiness? And so for me, ultimately, through the ashram, it came through meditation. So in meditation, it's training for being out of your practice. You are taught to shut down all of the open running tabs in your mind to tune in, for me, to what it feels like heart coherence. Heart coherence is also something that is now getting a lot of attention, but we can recognize that when you are in a state of fight or flight, of anxiety, worry, or fear, your heart rate variability is off. There's no consistency to your heart vibration. When you're in heart coherence, there's a sense of peace and calm. This is the rest and digest. This is when your hormones are firing properly, when your gut microbiome is synced with, where your heart is synced with your brain. There's coherence between the entire body. And so for me, it's meditation every day. And if I don't do it, I let myself off the hook. I'm a busy working mom, but I do recognize that what it means for me is that I haven't tuned into who I am. I'm running life based on a program and being busy and getting things done instead of stopping and like, holy shit, I'm here in this physical body having this amazing human experience. I have children. I woke up. I have a heart that beats for me every single day. There's so much beauty in this world. It's like something that's pretty intense, right? If I skip that practice, then I'm really skipping out on ultimately what allows me to feel and see the beauty that exists in myself and in the world.
Oh, I love that so much. I'll confess that I have fallen off my meditation practice the last 3 weeks. I have one of my best friends is this beautiful vision worker, and she's incredible. And we're keeping each other accountable most of this year. Where in the morning for 30 minutes minimum, we were both meditating. I think she's continued it. She is so solid in her rituals. But I was just memoing her today about how during a time in a season where it's very full for me, like extra full, that was the practice that somehow floated away from me. And I woke up this morning and I was like, okay, how I get to revisit and I get to realign with the practices that really show up to serve my system and to help me regulate. So easy for me to go into hypervigilance and to be in that kind of fight or flight stress mode. And it feels, again, it's so insidious and it's sneaky because, like you said, not only is it celebrated, but also it can feel like kind of a little booster. Like you can kind
Oh
of get
yeah, it
caught up
feels
in
good
it.
to be up there.
Yeah, and I've been very addicted in the past. And so I was memoing her and I was like, hey, I would love that gentle accountability, that daily accountability again. And not to say that I get, I guess so many of my patients will come to me and they'll tell me, oh, but Dr. Mariza, I'm not lazy. And I promise you, I'm so disciplined. And yet, da, 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 da. And I was like, oh my gosh, we are all so hard on ourselves.
You just said that word, discipline. Why
Yeah.
do we have
Oh,
to associate discipline and hypervigilance with being healthy? Why does it seem so stressful and hard for us to simply be healthy? And it's because our priorities are just all wrong. We're prioritizing growth and success. And for me, there's actually a trap of personal growth. I honestly believed that, and a lot of this has to do with my upbringing, like coming from an Indian father, we're constantly in this path of excellence, or even our religious background. It's always about being better, becoming one with God, being on a course of mental growth and personal growth and attainment. And it's like
that
always
you
about
never
being somewhere
reach.
else.
Right.
You never
You're
reach.
chasing the horizon.
Yeah, you might get it when you're dead. It's like, okay, well, if I'm constantly trying to be better, and we live in a world where like one of the biggest industries is on personal growth and wellness and getting better and being somewhere else and feeling different, then we are not accepting the power of now. And this is, I think, if we can learn how to live in the now, the choices that we make for our health are going to change. The types of conversations that we have, the work that we pursue, the choices that we make based on our food are all going to be completely different. And this is where I think you and I should like really own in on this for your listeners is why is it that the mindfulness practice is the first thing to go when life gets busy and intense? When we
Yeah.
know the one thing that will
Hmm.
serve us moving forward is that mindfulness practice. And that can be different for all of us. It doesn't have to be sitting for 30 minutes in meditation. It could be a 5-minute walk outside. It could be journaling. It could be dancing. It could be jumping. But I think that's something even for me, it has to do with silence. Let me
Hmm.
experience silence for a few minutes.
Being with
Uh,
ourselves. Yeah.
got
I
it.
did. My son goes to a forest preschool just down the street from us at this gorgeous
Mm.
lagoon. And so often I am dropping him off and running back up the hill to get in the car to get ready for a podcast or something. And today, I was so excited that ours wasn't until 10. And
Yeah.
so I had, so drop off is at 8:30 and I went and did a half-hour walk around the lagoon because the meditation girl did not happen. Okay. He got up way earlier than anticipated because you just never know what you're going to get with a
With
little
kids.
3-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah, with kids. And so I was like, okay, well, then that's gone. And we got to cuddle instead. So I got this
Yeah.
yummy oxytocin boost. It
Yeah.
was so sweet. And I was like, oh my gosh, these days, I don't know how long I was in the present and in the now, but also I was just like, I'm just going to soak this up. Like meditation, be gone, girl. Like you're out. But then I knew I would take this beautiful 30-minute walk today. And it felt so good to be out there and to just be alone with my thoughts. It was beautiful. And so that was kind of the way that I showed up for me this morning.
Yeah, let me give you a reflection though.
Yeah.
You actually meditated twice this morning
Oh,
because in meditation, one style of meditation is focusing on gratitude and love and abundance. And often for women, that has to do with our children. You did that with your child. So you meditated with your child this morning. Then you gave yourself a second meditation where you actually outside in nature, acclimating with the rhythm of nature, aligning your circadian rhythm with a power that's greater than what you are. So that's
yeah.
two meditations that you did this morning. So
Woohoo! I'm celebrating.
yeah, and I think that we really have to break free with thinking that meditation has to look a certain way in order for it to be successful. I think as long as you are mindful about it and dropping in, like, oh, that felt really good. That felt as good as a meditation. I needed a walk today instead of sitting for 15 or 20 minutes and owning that. Then it means that you've got that resiliency. You're in your body, as opposed to what many people do. A lot of my male clients, especially, okay, 30 minutes of meditation, check.
Check.
5 minutes of breath work, check. Infrared sauna, check. It's like they're treating their health like a checklist without actually dropping into the power of what it's doing to every cell in your body. Big difference.
Big, big difference. Yeah, being in that present moment. Ooh, it is a practice in its own right, especially with a lot of to-dos that we get caught
Yeah.
up. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Wellness and biohacking, or call it bioharmonizing for us as women, it can feel like just moving through a lot of the things. And I remember when I first
Mhm.
was getting sick, or I first was dealing with some health issues in my late 20s, early 30s. And I remember this was very much, I had no way of regulating my system. I was very much in
Mhm.
survival. And I was treating my health in the same way I treated everything else. And I was like, well, I'm doing all the things. I'm doing the
Yeah.
yoga. I'm doing the healthy eating. I'm making the green smoothies. I'm doing all the things. And I'm like, I'm not better. And I realized, I was like, it's the way that I think about this. It's the patterning of how I am doing this life, or how I'm doing these strategies, that I was like, oh, this is way deeper work thing. Or
Yeah.
you say, used to say, how you do one thing is how you do everything. It's very much my mantra of like, how I show up here is how I'm going to show up there. And I'm just going to show up deregulated everywhere I go. And I was like, oh, this isn't working. I am actually getting sicker over time. And I think once I fell on my face enough times, I was like, oh, this is a deeper level of healing that I didn't
Mm.
even know I needed to do. I was running on these unconscious patterns.
And what a great reflection also, because I think that what, especially women, we get stuck at looking for health practices that are outside of ourselves.
Mhm.
Tell me what to do. What do I need to do with my hormones? What workout? What meditation practice? What breath work? What this? What that? What are you doing? We're looking outside of ourselves. And yeah, when my health was at its worst, I was probably exercising for about an hour, hour and a half every day. I was going hardcore. I was on the Atkins diet at that time, full of restriction. My apartment was house of free, sugar free, fat free, this free, that free. It's like there was no fun at all. Completely like not even honoring what my body needed. And the idea of that silence is so you can hear the cues from your body. In that time of craziness for you, or time of dysregulation, your body was probably sending you some key signals and signs that when we get busy, we're like, nope, deal with it later. Push that down, push that emotion down, push that awareness down. It's like, I'll deal with you later. And it gets to a point where it's like a crock pot, a pressure cooker. We push everything down into our bodies. Your body's just like begging you to listen to you. And then all of a sudden it gets too much. The pressure cooker, the lid comes off, and that often turns into many imbalances, hormonal dysfunction, food cravings, weight gain, bloating, gas, diarrhea, constipation, irritation, anxiety, you name it. It's like, well, your body's been trying to communicate with you all this time if you just listen to me. Imbalances and dis-ease take time to build. They don't happen overnight. So this is why it's so important to just tune into the whispers from your body. What is she or he trying to communicate with you so that you can kind of self-direct in the moment? Honor when you need a cup of tea over coffee. Honor when you need a walk over a HIIT training. Honor when you need a call with a girlfriend instead of sitting down to read a report. There are little things that we can do to self-correct every single day to optimize.
Yeah, I agree. I want to just reflect too as well that often a lot of these, the Mac truck symptoms, women come to me
Mhm.
all the time with hormone issues, and they're looking for the thing, the fix. And so often it's trauma, or it's perceived stress, or it's like this deeper work. And so I know that people are they're looking for the supplement protocol, they're looking for the nutrition protocol, they're looking, for the basically for the protocol. Like I came to you for the protocol, and I'm like, I'm going to
Yeah.
be recommending internal family systems. I'm going to be recommending like some
It's
deeper
true.
work, because I find, again, if we're not processing the sympathetic nervous system, the heart coherence, you could eat all the organic food in the world. And yes, it's a yes. And I think that is very much, definitely the move over highly processed foods for sure. But then if your cellular energy or your metabolic health or your mitochondria are in that stress survival state, a lot of what you're going to make is just a bunch of organic stressed proteins
You
to
got
me.
it.
Like, I think we ultimately, if we don't address that bigger root cause, as you mentioned at the very beginning of the interview, then I feel like we're just kind of spinning our wheels. We may be moving a little bit in the right direction, but we end up kind of coming back.
I would say 95% of the time when I do my initial client consultations, they'll say, Mona, just show me, how do I get this number on the scale, get this six pack, fit into this dress, or, whatever it is. And it's like, okay, there, we'll get there. And more often than not, when I talk to people about what their core values are and how they want to feel in their body, and I ask, well, when's the last time that you actually felt that way? Often that question is met with tears. Oh my God, I don't even know. For some people, it's like, I think I was 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old. Like I remember feeling the happiness that I crave, the lightness that I feel in the body, the peace that I'm so desperately wanting. And it's like, if there's tears there, I always say this is your soul's way of communicating with you. So stop pushing those tears back down. Let's finally address them and help you get on your journey back to feeling the core emotions, the values that you want in your body, your mind, and your life.
So powerful. That's such a very beautiful question to ask. And I'm sure, it hits people at their core, because so many of us are chasing or running from whatever we're running from. And we don't, there's no pause, there's no moment where we really listen to our bodies and really listen to what our soul's calling is.
10 years ago, I used the word vibration a lot. And 10 years ago, it was met with like, oh, that's vibration, woo woo, like, oh God, what are we going to do? What is this hippie stuff? But now, thanks to some incredible doctors, the word vibration is actually being validified by science. The type of emotions that we wake up with every day and how we go out into the world feeling is a vibration. You're putting your vibration out into the world. And if we look at this on a chart, there's a chart that you can look at on a chart of vibrations. The highest vibrations are things like happiness, joy, feeling peace, eventually enlightenment, if we ever get there. And then the lowest vibrations are things like apathy, shame, sadness, fear, worry, just feeling fearful, right? And so I would say, what is the vibration that you currently have, and what's the vibration that you want going out into the world? Because ultimately, your health, or speaking to the mitochondrial cells, these powerhouses within you, your mitochondrial health is going to reflect the vibration that you have. If you're constantly in stress, constantly in fear, constantly in worry, and my gosh, we live at a time in history where like these are the prominent emotions when we go on social media, when we turn on the news, when we go out into the world, when we think about how we're going to live, what is the future going to look like? There's so much unknown that it is a complete distraction from what our true vibration should be. So I think that what we can do every day, like simply remember, if I were to ask you, remember who you are. What was the 4-year-old version of yourself doing? Like if you saw her in a park, what was she wearing? What did her hair look like? What was she playing? Were her hands up up in the air? Was she laughing? Was there sounds? Was there music? Where was she? What did she want to do? Just start to remember those core feelings. And you'll start to feel this resonance shift within you. It's that coherence coming back into play because your body is actually remembering a time. And we now know that if you can recall a memory of happiness or love or gratitude so clearly, your mind does not know the difference between it happening in the past versus it happening in the present moment. So you can relive that vibration for your body. And so the more that we can train ourselves to recall, this is why gratitude practices are so important. The more that we can drop into gratitude every single day, the more that we're aligning the vibration of our body to heal, for the cells that no longer function to be removed, or for our digestion to be improved. And if we're improving our digestion, we're literally eliminating waste from the body, cells that no longer are serving us. We literally are becoming lighter. So yeah, something to keep in mind. Like there's so much power in feeling love and gratitude every day. It's not woo-woo, it's actually backed by science. And it should be part of a healing protocol that's given by every single doctor.
Yes, full body, yes. And I was thinking about that 4-year-old energy. I know you have young children too. Mine will be
Yeah.
4 in December. And I kind of just don't want him to be 4
Best.
yet. But
Yeah.
he is just, even this morning, the energy, his little, it's wake up time, and daddy wasn't ready to
Yeah.
wake up, but he was like, Daddy, it's wake up time. And it's just the energy, just the full authenticity, the awe and the wonder. He wanted me, we
Yeah.
made these yummy muffins that had lots of fiber and protein and everything. And he reminded me 5 times to pack a muffin in his lunchbox this morning. And it's just the being in the awe and wonder of him is just one of the greatest gifts I think I've ever been given. So even if times I can't remember myself, I always get to be in the energy of him and how
Yeah.
much he is living his full authentic self. And there's just so much deep gratitude for that. I
Oh
love
my
that.
God, I couldn't agree more. Yeah. And, I shared a bit about the tension of the stress in my home growing up, and I don't have that with my kids. So I find myself really looking to them. It's like this moment where I can feel when my heart connects to my son, my entire nervous system just like just resets itself. And although I don't want to rely on my children to give me that, what it's doing for me is remembering that there's another way to live. There's a part of our being that is so magical and so special. And we lose this as adults because we become fearful. And when we have kids and moms, it's like, well, I've got to be a mom. I got to work, got to pay
Protective
bills, do
energy.
more, protect, plan for the future, think about the past. You and I are both healers. Go out in the world. How can I make impact? It's like there's so many buckets to fill that we often lose sight of just the magic of what it is to just like be in tune, being with you in this moment, having this conversation, and like the beauty that just unfolds, and giving
Mm-hmm.
ourselves permission to be so hyper present instead of living in the future.
Mm-hmm. What I do every time I go into a podcast interview is I do a mantra of like show up fully and be fully
Yeah,
present.
you
And
got
so,
it.
because that's what I mean, this is what it's all about, this conversation, this connection, helping to serve and support women and anyone who's listening as well through that. I think to me is just like, one of the ways that we can really be fully present and we can really live that purpose or live that goal and intention.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
would love for you to share. This is definitely the time. If every day is a day of gratitude, like you said, it's such a big part of the healing journey. I 100% agree. And I have a multitude of gratitude practices that I love. I do
Mm.
some with my son, I do some by myself. And I was curious if you'd be open to sharing some of like one of the gratitude practices that you've really anchored into that have become kind of second nature for you.
Yeah. Whenever I go outside, it's becoming a bit of a ritual now because I'm training my mind to do this. But the cue is just look
Mm.
up at the sky, look up at the clouds, look at the beauty of the sky and the colors that I see, the rays of sun that are coming down, the sunlight that is shining. And we have a ritual in our house of walking every single night as a dinner. Obviously, when there's no soccer practice and stuff like that, we go outside. And something I noticed with my daughter, she was complaining about something, like she had a tough day at school and there's a girl that criticized her, and it's like, you know what? You can get stuck in thinking about that because your mind is going to focus on the things that don't feel good. We can change that. So let's look up. And then we started this practice of like, okay, oh my God, look at the color of those purple flowers growing on that tree. How did nature do that? That is so beautiful. Look at the
Mm.
color of the sky. How does blue and turquoise and orange show up in the sky in California at night. Like, what a miracle. And then she got into it. Mommy, look over there. Look at that color. Look at that flower. Look at that piece of grass. Look at all the green. And it's like, we just got into this like laughter almost of just seeing beauty, which I think like we just have to look up and see that. And the second thing that's very much a ritual for me, every single morning before I even open my eyes, I put one hand over my heart and one hand over my abdomen. And I just like, thank you to this heart that has done so much for me, my heart specifically, who I needed communication that was so loud in order for me to tune into what my body really needed and wanted. The fact that my body was able to create life and give birth, the fact that our bodies in this second, everyone listening, your body is doing everything that it can right now to heal. And we just carry on living. Your body is working its ass off with thousands and thousands of chemical reactions. Like that is a miracle. So yeah, first thing in the morning and typically at the end of the day comes a gratitude practice.
I love that. I just would thank you so much for sharing. I just wanted to hear a little bit about,
Yeah.
I know that we're heading into a season of gratitude, but as I mentioned, every day really should be that for each and every one of us. And there's so many ways that we can connect into the awe and wonder and beauty of life.
Yeah, I was thinking about that this morning. Like, what if it was a workplace policy, right? To check in on the mental well-being and happiness of employees? What if it was a mandatory practice every day to schedule meditation or a gratitude practice at the workplace? Like productivity would go up, employee happiness and satisfaction would go up. You probably have a lot more coherence between workers and
Yeah.
inspiration and creativity that would happen if this was just like a standard in society.
Yeah, you think about what you create or the thoughts that come from being in that energy, being in that vibration. It's just so beautiful. Like it's hard to come up with great solutions when we're stuck in our stuff. Like when we're in the fear and we're in the anxiousness and the worry. If anything, we kind of just spiral, you know.
Yeah, and don't you feel like, I don't know, for a lot of the patients that you have, there's this reliance or curiosity or even dependence now that's coming up with plant medicine?
Yeah.
Because when you go into plant medicine, all of a sudden that beauty and gratitude is just exposed. Like, oh my God, you pull back from the view of your life that you have into something that is like this bird's eye view. And I find a lot of the clients that I work with are now like, oh, I really want to go back in. I need the reminder, I need the memory. It's like, no, 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 no. I can give you the greatest breathwork teacher, meditation teacher, or even guidance right now. We can listen to something that will get you into the exact same state, maybe without the, sacred geometry and visualizations and hallucinations that you might have because of the medicine, but you can get your physiology into the exact same state on your own without relying on plant medicine. So I hope, yeah, for anyone listening who's like dependent on that or wants to go back in to feel that, no, you've already trained your body in order to how to do that. You just have to build the muscle. It's just practice.
Yeah, I'm so glad you mentioned breath. And I agree. Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree with you on
Yeah.
you can tap into it so many other ways and shift your state. But breath, one of my dear friends, Samantha Skelly, who's the owner of Pause Breathwork,
Yeah.
she always talks about getting high on your own supply and basically on your own breath and how easy you can shift your state. And so that has been something that I've anchored to for years now, particularly, when I was trying to conceive through my pregnancy, postpartum, and even to today, breath has been the thing that I've anchored to so much to kind of reset my state. But I will say the thing that I love the most, the thing that has made the most profound difference or impact on my life is being out in nature. My
Mhm.
body attunes to nature so beautifully. My system, my heart coherence aligns. I feel good in nature. I love being out there. My mitochondria just crave it. And
Yeah.
so if
It's like
I
plugging
chose
in.
between meditation or nature today, it was very much the nature, the walk that was going to be the thing. Not that I don't love meditation, but I crave nature and being outside so much more than being in my
It's
sauna meditating or wherever.
it's source energy.
Mhm.
If I were to even cue people right now, think about a place in nature that makes you feel happiness and peace, whether it's at the ocean, walking in the grass, climbing up a mountain. And all of a sudden, if you close your eyes, really get clear on that, chances are what you're doing right now is it's like
It's an
your body does
exhale.
it on its own, right?
Yeah.
And as a society, all of our cultures used to spend so much time outside. And the foundation of everything that I do, me going back to my roots at the ashram, rooting in all of the things that our ancestors just knew to do properly. They were eating well, they were breathing properly, they were sleeping properly, they were hydrating properly, they were doing all of these foundational truths that we know for optimal wellness. And it's probably why there wasn't chronic disease back then, right?
Mhm.
Chronic illness, chronic disease, chronic anxiety, depression, or sadness. There
Yeah.
wasn't the need for opioids back then because we were connected to nature and all of the things that serve us.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. I
breath
think
work
we
too is
think,
so
yeah,
powerful, right?
so good. It's so good. I love
Can
it.
I share with
Yeah.
you a
Yeah.
memory? When I am at the ashram, so when you become a teacher, a yoga teacher, you're given a spiritual name. And there's a Swami there who would train us on a spiritual name, but also a mantra for meditation. So you're sitting there rehearsing this one mantra. A mantra can be given to you. It can be something as simple as Om or any word that you want it to be. But sit with the mantra. Try to repeat the mantra for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Your mind might wander, but you'll come back to it. When I stood up after repeating that mantra for 20 minutes, I could not feel the ground beneath me. I was so in my body and the vibration of the word over and over and over in my body. I literally have it. I remember the memory. It was like, I can't feel the ground beneath my feet. I felt like I was floating. And so it's like there's this synergy that happens when you combine sound with breath in the body that gives you that same impact. So I wanted to share that story because it's like we're looking for different ways and how to attain this without sitting down to an actual breath work practice. But there's so many modalities out there. You just have to find the one that suits you, that makes you feel a certain way.
And I think that's what I was, so grateful to have this conversation. It's really opening the door for what feels good, what is a non-negotiable. I think, that attunes us to more joy and a deeper, happier vibration. And, whatever
Yeah.
that may be for you. And so I'm so grateful that we've kind of gone into so many different directions of like, okay, how can we bring more of this into our lives? Another question, I don't know if this is true for you as well, working with your patients and clients, is asking them, what brings them joy. I find that so many, especially women, have no idea of, because no one's ever asked,
Yeah.
and so finding that out. I'm a big fan of pleasure stacking, of doing
Yes.
multiple things that I love on top of one another. And especially within a lot of my health rituals, like getting to stack those together is just, so dreamy to me, and really building it into my calendar as much as anything else is built in.
Just as important as brushing your teeth, right?
Yeah.
What did you do today that brought you a sense of joy or freedom or peace? It should be something that you're giving to yourself as an essential every single day. And it actually should be part of healthcare, to be totally honest. It's a core pillar for living life. The purpose of life is to be happy. The purpose of life is to feel joy and to seek out those things. And we don't prioritize that enough. We prioritize doing more and achieving more before happiness. This is why, God, I've worked with so many people who have tremendous amounts of wealth who are doing all of the right things. And when I ask them if they're happy every day, there's immense sadness. Yeah, chase the happiness first.
Yeah, I love that. Mona, honey, this has been so beautiful. Our conversation, your depth, your deep connection to self. And I can feel your vibration through Zoom, girl.
Yours
I can
too.
feel it. And how it is really transferring over to so many people. Where can we find you? You've got the most amazing podcast. I love listening to it. I love the vibe. I mean, you're looking for a high vibration show. Your show is it.
Thank
And then
you.
also, where else can we find you?
Yeah, so I love Instagram. I'm the one that answers all my messages. So Mona Sharma, it's just my name. And then, yeah, Rooted in Wellness, my podcast, it's been like decades in the making, and who knew it was going to be the one thing that I absolutely love doing. But ultimately, it has to do with just bringing alive the rituals from all of our ancestors, these foundational truths to health and happiness, that all of the wisdom that is there from ancient wisdom. And I'm merging that with modern day science because there is a time and a place and excitement also around the things that we can do for the human body and physiology moving forward. So ultimately, like if I could just paint a picture for what healthcare is going to look like in the future, it's merging those two worlds together and getting doctors of Eastern background with Western background and just thinking about what the capacity could be for our greatest healing and happiness merged together.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah,
That
thank
mic drop moment. And
you.
I love that. I love that vision. I can anchor into that vision deeply. And I think
Yeah.
we all want that.
Totally. And like working with me, I with my clients, yes, we address the foundational truths, right? So sleep, hydration, whole foods diet, proper rest and recovery, and mindfulness practices, key things. But of course, I want to do biomarker testing. I want to understand what your gut microbiome is saying. I want to, maybe do a saliva test to help you understand what your cortisol is doing. I want to send you in for biohacking if it's appropriate and use things like red light therapy and infrared sauna and all of those things. But we just have to understand that if you're going to create your perfect blueprint for healing, it should be as unique as your thumbprint and look like no one else's. And I think that the more that we can take ownership of that, you become the creator of your destiny and the body that you want, and optimizing your hormones and just painting a completely different picture. Because right now, especially as women, we're stuck on like, God, aging right now seems like doom and gloom. Perimenopause seems like doom and gloom. And it's like, no, I've talked to so many women in their 50s and 60s who said, like, there is beauty in it. It can be so juicy and amazing and like turn into this, like the version of yourself that's finally carefree. It's like your true self bursting open. So I think that the more that we can just tune into that and share more of those stories, life and aging is going to feel so much better.
I love that. I love that. Well, and it literally improves and it boosts our health span, our longevity. And I mean, what's the
Yeah.
point of biohacking all of this and you don't feel good in it? Like you're not, you don't feel
No.
happy. So I agree.
Wasn't there a study too on Brian Johnson, the guy that wants to age backwards fast, who's spending billions on his body? Wasn't there just like a very small incremental increase in what he did for his physiology biologically, his biological age? Yeah.
You can't out, you really honestly, I think it's so hilarious that we think we can outsmart our biology.
Totally. I just have this vision, like I just see, maybe it was a past life, who knows? It's just like women in community gathering with our hands in soil outside in nature. And there's people who understand herbs and people who understand breath work and people who understand meditation and people who understand how to cook with foods. And like there's just this wisdom that we're not keeping alive that I really hope stays alive. So it shows the simplicity and beauty of healing. Because I really do think that like being alive in this lifetime should be a beautiful thing. And I'm saying that as a reminder to myself for when life gets really busy and hard. I think it's more conversations like this. I'm super grateful to just like be able to put more information and vibration like this out into the world.
Mm.
So
And you
thank you.
make, oh, girl, my pleasure. And I think you touched upon, I know we didn't get to connect about it too much today, but community and
Yeah.
how important that is, particularly, I mean, for everybody, but for women, gosh,
Yeah.
to be in community is probably one of the greatest gifts that I can think of. When I think about where I want to spend my time, it's
Yeah.
there.
So, like, we don't need a study to prove that time in community serves us. We simply
Mhm.
have to do it. And all of a sudden, we feel connected, we feel grounded, we feel empathetic towards other people. We take on energy from other people that lifts us up. And all of a sudden, we feel a certain way that we could never have felt if we're sitting in isolation at home. So, yeah, we've got to make sure that this is something that I think women can speak to this, especially because we tend to be able to go deep very, very quickly. But I think maybe us going out into the world as teachers to pull people together, to have more events, instead of just one girlfriend for coffee, call three or four. Instead of going for one girlfriend for dinner, call three or four. Just getting other seek events and opportunities to gather. Because I think that that in itself is healing.
It's my favorite.
So we should do that together.
Yes, we should. Thank you, honey, so
You
much.
too. Thank you so much. Till next time.